Welcome everyone to another RGL cast. My name is Jared. I'm here with Spaces to bring you guys TM06 versus Thrembology. This is RGL Invite 6's Season 11, Week 8A, and we got another matchup on our hands. It might be a little bit of a revenge story. The last time that these two teams played against each other was another close 3-2. I think we saw a lot of those this season, but it was a victory for Thrembology. And TM06, they've had some decent scorelines throughout a large variety of teams, but looking to see if they can turn things around and keep themselves out of the relegation zone, as they only got 3 wins to their name, even though they have a lot of rounds. Definitely want to make more wins happen for yourself if you want to solidify yourself as a mid-invite team. And Thrembology, they're going into invite, at least you can hope to try to find some sort of positive record, and they're not too far away, so this is definitely going to be one of the boxes you're going to be wanting to check if that is your goal. And who knows, maybe if you do well enough, you can be right below the 4th seed as, the next best team that could have made it into playoffs. So a lot on the line for pride and maybe a little bit for your final ranking. So both these teams are going to duke it out on Metalworks this time around. Not, too dissimilar from Gullywash as the previous match, but Metalworks has been quite a story for not just this season, but a lot of seasons in the past. So can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, indeed. To see how it unfolds here, TM06 versus Thrembology. TM06 has not played Metalworks this season. This is their first Metalworks match all season. They've TM06 has done the classic play like 3 maps over and over again, and so they're kind of branching out to Metalworks for the first time this season. Thrembology, they've played Metalworks a fair amount of times. This will be their 3rd time, something like that. So they have a little more match experience in the map, but Metalworks still probably need to get a lot of scrims, a lot of time on it. But should be new territory, at least as viewers watching them play this map.
Yeah, you can take a look at the bands on the screen. There's actually not really tons of patterns when it comes to types of maps or getting rid of cheese maps or whatever. It's actually pretty spread out between both these teams, so it was definitely 2 teams that were just banning, like, all right, what are our bad maps right now? Just get them out. And, every map's a little bit different. It doesn't seem like there's a giant, real pattern to it.
Yeah, no Sultry ban, so leaving Sultry in, and I believe no Sunshine? Yeah. So it's
No,
between...
Sunshine was
No,
the
I see
Thrembology
Sunshine.
event.
Yeah, there's the good old lighthouse. So then
It
it's
was Snake.
Snake, yeah. Yeah, so between Snake, Metalworks, and Sultry, TM06 decided electing to go Metalworks. So not surprising, I suppose, in the end, even though they haven't played it. Maybe they want experience on it. Maybe they just, maybe they're just feeling some Metalworks.
I feel like it's fine, like a good medium in between, like, picking a map that maybe you can, like, look for an upset win on if you put in enough effort, but also not so foreign that you are lost yourself. Obviously, Snakewater is pretty, like, it's even territory for most of the teams when you compare them up to each other, because Snakewater is very well known, and Sultry is, unless you have played it extensively, the past bit, you're not gonna have everything down per se. But Metalworks, it's been in the pool enough, even though it's not a pug staple, so if you put in enough effort, maybe you can, show up something flashy at one of these mids and, take a good grasp on the game and put yourself at a very good start in the beginning half of the match.
Most definitely. I think going into this, Thrembology obviously gonna be the favorites, but TM06, I think they do have some upset potential. Definitely some they're 3-9, but like you said, they do have a lot of rounds. So I think they've shown that they're close, but they can't quite seal out the wins, or they get some rounds, but they just can't get over the hump and actually get those W's. But before we talk too much about the teams, it is important to go over the rosters. I'll start for TM06. So for the side of TM06, we have Scream and Polly on Scout, Apathy and Loaf on Soldier, Sleepy on Demoman, and Pablo on Medic.
And for the side of Thrembology, we have JT and Wonder on Scout, Sax and Speedy on Soldier, Averted on Demo, and Divine on Medic.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think going into this, Thrembology, I don't know if I'd say they've punched above their weight this season, but I think they've done a good job this season, especially considering they have a lot of move-up players, etc. I guess
Here's
both
something
teams...
last week. Last week, they had a match versus GPG on Process, and they won.
Ooh.
They beat what is assumed to be the 4th seed team. Granted, Process and Metalworks very different maps, and there's different team play styles, but that's nothing to just completely ignore. They definitely have shown promise throughout the season with some of their closer matches, and then I think that's a decent accomplishment if you want to cherry pick matches. I'd say to show that you're actually making some good progress.
Indeed, a little bit of slip for GPG, but yeah, even though they're a little bit far away in the standings, they're only 2 wins away from each other. So even though they're different on the standings, I think skill level-wise they're pretty close. But like you said, that's a pretty good feather in your cap, is to beat a playoff team especially coming in with some of these players. It's their first season of Invite, so I think that's definitely like I said, a nice feather in their cap. But for TM06, how do you think, if you're going into this match, what do you think their like mental approach is?
Uh, it's kind of hard to say, especially because I mean, you can't just cop out and say like that they're gonna react or whatever, because obviously if they're the one that picked the map, then they have some sort of game plan. Metalworks tends to play very slower, which from what we've seen, I feel like they play like a little fast. Like some of the matches we've seen, they try to keep the ball rolling and don't
Yeah,
really try
loosey
to
goosey.
they don't try to stalemate it too hard. So that seems to be a bit of an opposite of their game plan, but maybe that's something to keep them in check per se. Like
And
they
maybe
know
the
that
map will keep them in check.
yeah, they know that because they play fast, sometimes maybe it can get chaotic and they can accidentally make mistakes when the game was in the palm of their hand. But if the map is the thing that keeps you in check by default, then maybe something that could be seen as like a weakness or a crux of your team is kind of solved without putting in too much effort from your own side, just because the map helps you out. So you could be kind of see it as that, along with whatever else they think that that might have in their favor versus Thrembology in particular.
Yeah, versus Thrembology in particular. GPG actually did play they played TM06 recently, and the scores were the same, but the results were different. So TM06 lost to GPG 5-2, whereas Thrembology actually beat GPG 5-2 on process versus TM06 was on Sunshine. So those are two
That's pretty similar.
Yeah, as similar as you can get for two different maps in TF2, to be honest. Like
And
process and Sunshine are the differences are notable but still marginal.
And I think it definitely makes sense, like, with what we've seen so far throughout the season, as well as that recent scoreline, that Thrembology are probably, going into this as a bit of the favorites. I think the roster change that they've made, adding Speedy on Soldier and moving Wonder to Scout, has actually worked out in their favor a bit. I talked about, I think the big question mark was Speedy, to see, like, is he here to play or is he filling a role? And how is the pace that he is wanting to play, how is that going to affect Thrembology? Is it going to be on pace, or is it just going to accidentally be like, a Soldier that's not in sync? And it's working out pretty well, and you're seeing quick results. But the thing is even though I think it's safe to mark Thrembology as the favorites, the consistency for the side of TM06 to, no matter who the opponent is, that you get some rounds off, or at least have a somewhat semi-decent game, and it's respectable showing, shows that they're able to, even if their start is bad, they're able to adapt and get something on the board. So I think I feel like it's going to be a close game no matter what. It's just about, are Thrembology actually going to be able to hold on to the game, or is whatever TM06 has in store here on Metalworks going to be a little bit too much for them to handle? I think that's the big thing. When you pick a map like this, you obviously have an idea for it, and it's a little bit of it is kind of on not so much the strength of the idea, but I think, is your opponent going to be able to recognize what they need to change to make sure they're still in it? I think if Thrembology is able to recognize, like, what strategy they're coming into this map with, especially for the mids, or like how often they do behind planes and stuff, then maybe that'll be fine. But otherwise, TM06, they could run away with it. So, final score. What's your pred space?
Metalworks, it's interesting because we're on Metalworks, and like you said, very good point that TM06 do like to play pretty fast. I could expect this to be one of those like kind of chaotic back and forth matches, but that doesn't really necessarily indicate how many rounds we're actually gonna get. It's all up to the rounds, and I think we're gonna see a fair amount of rounds, but I don't know if we're going to 5. I don't. I'm gonna say I'll say a 5-2, but I'll say it's the fifth round is like the overtime round that takes like 15 minutes.
I actually think we're repeating the same scoreline as last time. I feel like it's Metalworks stalemates can be kind of gnarly sometimes, depending on the team. I feel like we're just gonna see another 3-2. But in Thrembology's favor, Thrembology's favor once again. I think it's going to be a close match, but it'll just be a repeat.
Oh, yeah, I can see that as well. I think playing on Metalworks does kind of throw a spanner in the works. Definitely could. I think the fact that it's on Metalworks makes me more unsure in my prediction. But I do agree. I think Thrembology will come out top in the end. But we're going live, although we do have the classic Metalworks rollout. It takes 80 million years to actually arrive at mid, so we got some time to fill, Jarrett.
Yep. It's going to take a bit for them to actually reach the mid, but once they do, we'll actually get to see, you know, if there's anything wonky or just unique from the side of TM06 for mid-fight strategies. They did pick this map. Everyone has finally arrived at mid. No one's ripping off a bomb right off the bat, just starting with spam. Apathy's actually getting on top of the point to get some extra spam, but will not quite hit too much from the side of the red team. Bombs coming in from the side of Speedy and Sax onto the scouts and soldiers on the top left side, but not too much damage. Actually secure a kill, but it's going to be Pablo. That is the first death, and Sleepy following as well. It was a little bit of a fake. Will they eventually collect those frags? Just so much room for Averter to walk forward and collect them. They're on the chase now, trying to find the way into Divine. One rocket, but Apathy doesn't have the follow-up. Everyone else is not really in a position to get onto this medic. 3 left alive. Scream will fall, and it's just Loaf and Polly. I mean, maybe they can find the way onto Sax. No, Sax gets one, and Polly left behind all the way back on the opposing 2 is, you know, good distraction bombs and moves from the side of Thrembology to make sure they got that medic, they kept Divine safe, and get the first mid-fight in their favor.
Yeah, I think Paulie going behind, he wasn't probably going to get anything, so I think it's a heads-up play from him, creating a distraction. He's going to 1v1 JT, but JT is going to come up top in the end, so nice attempt at a play by Paulie, but in the end, unable to do too much, as that was a pretty solid mid-fight win from Thrembology overall, you know. They got the mid, they kind of, you know, posted up, just got all the kills as people went for, you know, salvage plays, but TM06 unable to get anything, so Thrembology sitting here on 50% Uber out, trying to push Metalworks last, which can be a little rough. We do have the sentry like hiding in the spawn. Might not even come to play depending on what the other team wants to do, but we're actually gonna like the bomb with the soldier and have the demo just walk.
Oh, averted though. They didn't flash averted at all. He was the third man in and just gets sticky from the side of Sleepy and cleaned up by Polly. This Uber, it's not what you want from the side of Thrembology. They're trying to clean up, but they don't really have the positioning. Sax is gonna die, and it's just Speedy and Divine left alive. They did a soldier scout Uber onto the gun, and then
yeah, the demo just walked.
Yeah, not only did averted just got left in the dust behind, but as soon as the Uber was off the scout, he melted as well.
Yeah, so they definitely, that Uber, a little bit disastrous, as we're going to see, actually, Wonder's going to be in on-scout fighting, but nice rock from Apathy going to direct JT, and both scouts are running behind,
actually. Pablo fell.
Pablo did fall, but both scouts are running behind, but this Uber, there's nothing happening. There's kills behind if they can get it, but they're fighting it, there's just chaos happening in lobby as the blue team's getting pinched.
JT from behind, they found the one scout, but the second one was still hiding around, able to collect the kill onto the medic, and it's just a couple weak players from the side of TM06, unable to really find anything. It seemed really a hectic moment. They didn't really have good control over the bridge as they were trying to cap for the side of TM06, so when the floodgates opened, that disaster pop, especially with Pablo falling so it couldn't chase anything, with both scouts getting behind, was the perfect storm in Thrembology's favor. Is the movement sticks off the point, working the way, and they haven't popped quite yet, but will finally pull the trigger on it, getting a lot of damage onto the scout. Averted putting in work to make them extremely weak, and so much cap time in their favor. They baited both the soldiers to their death, and only 3 left alive from the side of TM06. They're on top of the point, they're standing strong, but they don't have their Uber anywhere nearby, as Polly's trying to collect the kill on the Speedy will not be successful, as the cap goes in favor of Thrembology, leading the score 1-0.
Yeah, they got onto second, but the refight from Thrembology was, yeah, I don't know if I'm not gonna say if it's Thrembology's refight, but TM06 just kind of had a disaster happen, trying to, you know, push out of second, and that could definitely end up in a last push, like we said. So Thrembology taking the first point, 1-0, but like you said, Metalworks can get pretty gnarly, and we are settling into a pause.
We are, but that was a pretty early pause, honestly, like 4 minutes in.
Yeah, I feel like this probably isn't a tack.
4 minutes in. There's no way you tack 4 minutes in.
I feel like Bandy might do it one of these days, but yeah, we'll see.
The only way I could see attack, maybe, is
you get him mid to last
if Pablo explodes again on mid
before the mid starts,
and they just lose, then maybe they attack to talk about how they, you know, fix mid. Oh, they pause to change their aliases because they don't want to get to, you know, they don't want to have an oopsie happen.
Fair enough, fair enough. I'm looking at the...
Oh, and it's taking forever because Apathy's friends list on Steam is broken, so it's
you
not
might
actually...
have to restart Steam.
It's not actually saving the changes.
Steam's been having some wild issues going on recently, so that could be a whole process. We might have to be in here for the long haul.
Steam has been hyper trolling, where like you don't get pinged, and you literally can't open Steam until you restart it, and it's happening for like over a week now, maybe 2 weeks.
Yes, it's been happening for me for like 2 weeks, and it's gotten better. But better is still not. It's not still not ideal.
Yeah.
So I have to call it. I don't know when this hat or goggles were released in the game, but GT is the gnarliest goggles I've ever seen. If they ever get a pause
Both
again,
demos-
definitely gotta check those out.
Both demos have arrived to mid, though. I think Speedy tried to do a bit of a speed shot, but was unsuccessful there. Both sort of a little bit on the weak side. There's more space from the side of PSN. They've made a lot of room happening for the team, but Saxophone with the bomb gets the final shot rocket onto Lopez. They have a little bit of a player ad here, but Pablo gonna fall. Shot down by the side of JT. He's gonna collect a second as well. So despite the initial, they had the positioning from TM06. They had the early kills, but I guess they were just kind of in a corner despite having them, and the remaining 4 from Thrembology just exploded and once again kind of took out Pablo, kept Divine alive, and it didn't happen the exact same way. There were more casualties, but they're in the same position we saw last time with full Uberad getting ready to push into last.
Yeah, Thrembology, I feel like they're just very split up. I saw there was a random scout 1v1. I feel like people were split up but unable to help each other, and TM06 just kind of got the kills in the end, but TM06 stuck on last, and not an ideal place to be, but they're up around at least. But there is the Uber happening right now as it was going in, but this gun took a while to kill. No point. There's a little bit of point time right now, but Loaf is doing his best defending the point. But Saxon and Averted gonna fall. Wonder gonna hit his shot onto Apathy, and Paldi gonna fall as well. And the refight's happening in Wonder. He kills Scream. There's Loaf is on the point. Can they kill Loaf? And it just Apathy left alive.
Yeah, it wasn't clean at the very beginning, but the fact, okay, this is where the pause was.
Or sleepy,
complete, yeah. It wasn't clean at the very beginning, but the fact that once again they killed Pablo halfway through the fight, they recognize that it's okay, we don't have that big of an advantage off the players anymore, but if we back up, get buffed, we'll clean up the remaining people, and that's exactly what they did. They completely retreated out of the last and worked their way back in once they were fully healthy, and that's what really sealed the deal. He is on the pain train, isn't he?
I just, I looked down and I saw, what's that? I was like, I haven't seen that weapon in a while. So we do have
getting ready to cap.
Yeah, there's some technology coming out from Speedy. Love to see it. As this mid fight is gonna get underway, JT gonna be under the point. Gonna do a good job shooting the demo, but Sleepy gonna take a high ground and actually gonna get duped for it as he walked up. But meanwhile, there's another dupe happening in Valley as Divine's gonna fall and Sack's gonna fall. There's kills happening all over the place, but Pablo is the man left alive, and Pablo is gonna stay alive for now. But
yeah.
Wonder and Averted gonna see what they can do here. Averted might go for a bomb, or actually
they gotta avoid the pinch the best they can. But Pablo barely gets
Wonder just wins anyway. Averted wasn't even there.
Yeah, Averted, I mean, he was a little bit slow, but now he's kind of caught a bit. He will be able to jump out, but
He's gotta be careful. There's a scout on patrol.
You can get pistoled.
Oh,
21, 5 will die. A little bit of actually a very late demo death, and it's almost something that you could
respawn.
It's almost something that you could legitimately maybe. Oh no, you can't mid-fight V2. Your medic is on such a longer spawn. Pablo is not there. These blue players are not healed. They have to win now or leave. They have to explode someone, and JT is getting a bit weak. He's actually getting baited.
Exploded. There we go.
Thrembology, they actually they didn't really recognize that. I mean, yes, Pablo's up on the screen, but he's still at last. He just spawned. All those players were unbuffed, and I think not recognizing it kind of bit them. So a little bit of back and forth there, but TM06, it works out in their favor.
JT kind of died for his team since there. If his rest of the team came in, they could have still wiped anyway, but could have gone different, but that kind of gave things up. But they decided to play their ad. They do have 30% ad, although dwindling already to 20% before they use. Now, I gotta be careful. Pablo has been building decently well, and Averted's gonna get air shot out of the chase here, and that's not gonna signal anything good. They haven't got a single kill yet, and Pablo's up on his Uber, and there's more. No, they didn't get anyone, and yeah, here comes the counter bomb. They don't even have to use here.
But that's about it. They've milked their way through the complete opposite doorway, collecting 2, a demo man at that. It's a very hard map to backward transitions on, and Averted will get punished there, but Divine, a bit alone. Apathy might find the timing. On to Divine, cut off the door. Still the other direction. It's able to take the pill, but seems like everyone else will not find the same fate of being able to survive as Thrembology. They got the respawners up. They've maintained their medic, but still, no Uber expended from the side of TM06. Pablo, ready to go. I mean, you don't have your explosive classes, so I guess not that ready to actually Uber into last, but maybe if the timing's right, you can find an opportunity to take maybe 30% ad. Just gotta be quick about it.
They gotta wait for the players to roll out. Unfortunately, it's, they're gonna get there. It's gonna be 30%. I don't know if they're gonna go off it. They can't. Yeah.
Sleepy was one of the people rolling out. They didn't want to go without him, and it makes sense. There was plenty of time to build a gun. They got the pyro up on the box. It's a bit sketchy situation.
Yeah, definitely sketchy. You can if you want, but don't be surprised if it doesn't work. So we're gonna settle into the classic stalemate. Yeah, the gun's actually just okay. Yeah, they have a level 3 up now. It's not really in a power position. It's just in the normal spot. I think they're gonna realize quickly. Oh, we have Uber now. It's ad situation. Maybe we'll move up the gun. Yep, there they go. Moving up the gun, getting into the classic situation. Metalworks gun spot, which is just in the corner of the crate there.
And they're actually keeping the pyro as well to reflect spam. So they're not gonna be able to actually hold the doors as strong, but it's gonna be hard to actually get onto these players.
Got the gun.
Averted took some damage, and the gun did die, but overall, that's your two-man. So, and Apathy's weak as well, has to fully back up and get arrowed. So, Thrembology on the move. It doesn't seem like they actually want to give up some of their off classes. Wonder staying on Engineer, I think, for now. But they're still poking around. Sax might find an opportunity to jump out, but Sleepy has spotted him. Kind of staring at the roamer. Be mindful of the doors, though. But overall, I think Sax
Sleepy's
took way
job
too
was
much
to watch
damage.
that. Sleepy had like 8 stickies on that lower. That was his door. He
just had his back turned to shutter though to look down.
Yeah.
It was really spooky. I think if Saxon had some extra room from like one other player there, they could have maybe found a demo kill. But it's kind of hard when you leave the engineer on last to like really milk the most out of the situation. It truly is still like a 5v5.
Yeah. And we do have Scream on Sniper, JT on Spy. He is checking classes, so they're going to know that Scream's on Sniper. They also probably heard the shot. So JT gonna switch back to Scout, but Scream, it's on him to get the Sniper pick here, and it might be a little tough. No one's really peeking anything. They're all sitting on the low ground, but if they elect to, you know, go do a sack while they have the Sniper, there's like 4 players standing in the low ground, and I think they might recognize that. Yeah, they're just gonna fight the soldier on the flank because they're all hiding.
Yeah, Sax had to go back to spawn.
Oh, JT's on Spy now.
Oh, actually, they trade the soldiers. I mean, Sleepy
I think I said, look at Scream, he's just in.
Hero shot. Trying to find the angle.
He's just gonna SMG down Sax.
The ramp is just in the way. Can't find the spot on the Divine, and Scream will fall. Overall, 2 for 2 though. Giving up both your soldiers to make sure this is still defended, and you know, I guess it's gonna be hard to actually counter sack from the side of Thrembology, especially because you lost so much. But Apathy on the move, recognizing they're less spam, and this is another pause.
Another pause indeed.
Can't be aliases this time. There's no way.
Yeah, everyone's alias is proper. So no funny business there, but we do have the Spy. That's a funny business. As we do have Apathy, actually, he is going in. He is currently mid-air looking down at a medic with a crossbow out. That's I don't know. I feel like if you're a roamer and you see the medic with a crossbow underneath you, that's usually a pretty good sign you might be able to get a drop.
Mission ends.
Yeah, you're kind of alone though, so.
Yeah, well, someone's restarting. Okay. Oh, speaking of which, now that we do have an applause, when did they... Jared, have you ever seen this cosmetic before? Look at JT's, like, goggles. I've never seen this before.
Oh, you're getting baited.
Oh, that's
you're not allowed to talk about the goggles.
Yeah, look at that. Those things are wild. I've never seen those before.
Yeah, those are pretty wild.
Yeah, they're I feel like it might be hard to see through this, but I think they unpause there to let the player in, whoever crashed. Hopefully it's not a medic. If I had to place bets on who crashed, I'm gonna say... hopefully it's not a medic, but I think it might be Devon. That would be my guess.
I'll say Speedy.
I think it's Speedy?
Like, I think Speedy's like, I have bad FPS, I need to restart my game now.
Is that
I think he would do that.
There's definitely
overall, bomb didn't work out though, and Wonder, he was disguised as a friendly sniper, and I don't think he revealed himself. So you know, maybe they called through the bomb that there was a sniper. So maybe they might not be expecting the spy play here. Still defensive spy at that.
Defensive spy is so fun but so stressful because if you mess up, you could just like lose your team to run by not being alive.
It's just giving their team a pick. At least he's not on like a spamming class.
Yeah, he's not on a spamming class. He's on scout, and they also still have an engineer, so they still have all the proper gear. But Wonder's in position for a stab. They just gotta be careful. Pablo actually turned around there, a little bit of a stressful moment, but he can call what doors there. He can call the spam, which is nice, and they're actually just gonna use
just a straight up exchange. I mean, there's only 30 seconds left to the round reset, so their hand is kind of forced, but Polly up in the air will eventually.
Oh, they have no idea.
They're playing at the stab from
Ooh, the 2K.
He got the medic and the demo. There's only 3 left alive from the side of PSN, and they're actually hiding in this little corner for the most part, trying to go for last. The gun is not up. The spy though, trying to get the revolvers out. They're both so weak.
3K.
Wonder's able to get 1, but overall just trading 2 for 2. It's gonna slow down Thrembology maybe a tad, but they gotta find some way to get some cap time. Mine Apathy hiding in the corner might be able to find an angle.
They're gonna just reset the round.
Oh yeah, they're not being greedy about it.
I don't blame them for resetting the round. Yeah, I think they reset the rounds fair, especially considering they've won a fair amount of the mids. Shout out to the spy play though. That's a DPM padding if I've ever seen it. Got 3 kills on spy, including 2 backstabs. So, you know,
Sax restarted.
Sax restarted. That's a perfect time to restart though. You know, like just as the rollout starts.
True. Doesn't really affect the mid or anything, so it should be good to go as per usual when it comes on Metalworks mid fights. But we'll see how things unfold. So far, we've seen actually it was TM06 that straight up just double bombed Divine last time, and it didn't really work out in their favor. But at least they got the medic kill, so we'll see if anything changes. Polly's actually getting really aggressive, eats some stickies.
Apathy's on Batman.
Oh, they're going for it again.
Oh,
they're trying to find the random Divine.
Divine knocked up in the air, but unable to get the kill. But Wolf actually lived this time, and they got 2 kills as the counter trick. So both teams got a demo and a soldier. He's just 1 spamming class and a whole lot of scouts. And Wolf is having a sad time trying to bomb up. But Divine's pretty hurt. They got to be careful.
Yeah, TM06 health is not that great. But the same can be said for the side of Thrembology. They're trying to fight the Scream
Speedy
will fall.
lived with
Pablo
3.
just elevated in the air. Loaf has to give up his life potentially to save his medic, but Pablo will just get
the
arrowed by
bow!
Divine. He thought he was safe for maybe a little bit, but Divine is able to get the arrow to make sure that Blue Medic does indeed drop his Uber. So medic on medic violence there as Pablo can't catch a break this match.
Pablo can't catch a break at all, but speaking of which, Speedy single-handedly won that, but he bombed both scouts and lived with 3, which baited the scouts in, and his scouts were just able to clean up on the distracted player. So, huge play there from Speedy, not getting any kills, but getting the mid win, which is, in the end, that's what's really important.
It's a full ad for the side of Thrembology, and they're poking around over in this the normal area. Actually, it's going to be left-hand side Uber from the side of the attacker's perspective. Once again, it's a soldier Uber. They're going on the gun, able to clean it up. Averted, kind of left in the dust. 45 HP. At least get a flash this time, but for the
nice bomb from
melting once again. Wonder just dies off the bat. They do lose Pablo though from the side of PSN, so you know they can back up for the side of Thrembology maybe a bit, but I've already committed way too far. This Uber, it's a bit odd. Their entry is kind of screwing them a bit for the side of Thrembology. I mean, it's selling out for Pablo and getting him, but that's not the main priority. The main priority is getting last.
Speedy's on Spy checking classes. Apathy gonna fall to an unfortunate trap from Averted. And Averted was also building with the Katana, so they're gonna have Uber a bit more than you'd expect considering it's a demo medic.
And Speedy's going Spy.
Speedy is going
despite
Spy.
having ad. He's
this is the classic, yeah. I mean, it's like, well, my team failed pushing last twice already. They'll never expect me to be Spy with that.
Well, it's also like, you can find a way to, as they're backing up, to be behind them, because they're not going
he's
to
actually
spawn.
he's just going for a stab.
But the rotation is wrong. That was not coordinated at all. At least he gets a sap on the gun. It's a little bit awkward, but they lost.
They don't know.
Averted's just dead. Speedy's going to fall as well. I mean, it's the same thing. They're getting Pablo, but they're losing so much upon entry. Wonder might even die and gets killed up by the side of Polly. They've lost Scream. JT falling. Saxophone barely trying to escape his life, and I mean, Pablo's got to be so frustrated right now that, I mean, he's dying, but Divine actually might be too. Lopez unable to get the rocket. Divine will get an arrow off, but Apathy coming to save the day, giving up his life to kill Divine, and it's so weird. There's like a small amount of success from the side of Thrembology, but it's not enough to clean up, and PSN are still holding on.
They're still holding on. Pablo respawning. He's going to have a bit of Uber right here. I don't know if it's not going to be that much. It could be like 20%, but he's going to have Uber right. He's going to be alive. Hopefully, tragedy stop happening to Pablo as Thrembology really want Pablo. Their mission is to kill Pablo, and then after that they'll figure out what happens from there.
Yep. Goal: make sure the medic dies much more than the demo does.
True.
And we'll just make sure that our demo man is kind of left in the back burner a bit. But ad from the side of TM06, Pablo, 30%. Might be a little bit hard to use, but still technically possible. It might kind of read that like, if a push is going to happen at all, that it's going to be an insta-pop unless you like milk through alley, like really earlier through the valley area. But they've arrived now, they're on the move, but their ad is just starting to dwindle. I think they've started moving way too late. I mean, look at Thrembology. They're so far back.
They might get Sax,
15% ad now. Sax, got a bit too aggressive.
They have space. They have space. They might be able to just walk in and exchange. And there's also the red flag's backing up. I think they decided they didn't want to exchange, so they just backed up. And red kind of, they were a little too afraid to get far up, even though they had Uber. So that's gonna, they ended up getting mid, and they settled into the mid-second stalemate. So it worked out in the end, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Sax died there kind of gave TM06 some extra breathing room. As Loaf working his way behind, buying some space for the team. You see the red soldiers making the same room, trying to leech off the health back, but Bomb coming in, committing automatic in the corner. Divine drops the Uber, unavailable to use it, and the sniper might go over here, shot, but the Uber doesn't need to come out, kills JT. They're on the move, trying to find more speed underneath the point. Might be able to block if he's spotted. I think they see him. Apathy, yeah they've brought both scouts. He gets the rock under the Scream, so it's at least a trade, and Pablo and Sleepy, they have to kind of stall. They're not able to actually push into last fight yet, and this slowdown might be enough for TB to get their respawners 2 up.
Oh, they're just going. They don't care about this.
As long as they can buy time, they can do this for the side
or
of
they
the
can
red
get
team.
Divine, and Apathy gonna bomb, get 3 rockets off, and lives. That's a huge play, and they just got so many players on the point there. It's just a demo versus... They're actually... Okay, they're gonna get
the
Sleepy.
respawners coming clutch.
The respawns are coming, but the respawners, Loaf gonna be arrive just in time, and they actually, honestly, for all that, they just made their ad bigger, because they got Divine in the end, so, mission accomplished. I guess you made your ad bigger, so they're gonna have, super Omega ad to push here.
In a way, it's kind of a domino effect, because if Speedy doesn't block 2 there, and the cap just goes off easy, a scout doesn't go back, and they start to lock things down so early, I don't think those respawners from the red team are in a factor to actually block the cap going through. I think the cap actually does indeed go in TM06's favor, but there might be a second try at this as they do have it ready to go. Trying
There's
to
a
pick
pyro.
Let's
see if they choose the pyro door. Yeah, they did choose the right door, but we'll see if they use the pyro door, but the pyro, they are doing a very good job denying him, and this Uber is going nowhere, but they're going to get the Uber in, but Apathy, they're all hiding in spawn, they have no one to actually... Literally every single player was running to spawn other than Speedy.
Yeah, Speedy was the only one behind, and he's still indoors, so unable to actually see a way to jump onto the point in time. So they played point heavily. That was actually a really good heads-up play, recognizing that because so many people are near the spawn, you just go for the cap. If you get your kills, you cap, and that's exactly what they did. So point on the board for the side of TM06, but we're on to another mid. So far, medics have been exploding left, right, and center, but only one team can come on top, and we'll see how things adjust as both the demos have finally arrived.
I would like to know that Pablo stopped exploding, and they actually won it.
Yeah, now it's Divine exploding medics. This time it's not even a medic, it's inverted.
Oh, Speedy's gonna explode too, or actually, will he? Pablo, he's surfing, he's trying, but they committed 3 for him. We'll see if they can get the counter picks. They are gonna be able to get 3 picks off that. They did get their man, they got Pablo. Mission accomplished, but we'll have to see if it works in the end. Scream is in, and he's going for play. He's on to Divine. He's still in, he gets Divine.
Still alive too, might be able to escape.
No
Just
way.
the distraction for the side of Loaf will finally die. That was almost even bigger if some extra shots were hit there from either of the two from the side of TM06, but the medic will be enough as overall, I mean, I think at this point they're content, like, okay, if they're gonna kill Pablo, we're gonna get way more. I think they've finally adjusted to the point where, like, even if our medic dies, we will find a way to get something even bigger and snowball it. And getting Divine late like that just gives them, I mean, it's a small ad, but it's still technically usable.
Even if they didn't get Divine, they still would have gotten mid off of it. Like, they got 3 picks off of it, so realistically, they weren't able to do too much. Zach's gonna go for a bomb, try to buy some space, but they're getting a lot of space of their own. Speedy gonna bomb lobby, see if they can get any damage. And there's actually Loaf and Polly are in, and Scream is in as well, but they're gonna get 2 rockets killing 2 players, and Speedy's behind for the pinch. They have no idea. They know now, but Pablo gonna get air shot by Speedy. Pablo did once again, and it's just Polly left alive. Impossible challenge. He's gonna fall, and that is a full wipe.
Yeah, that dry push was by slim margins. They knew that because the death from the side of Divine was so late, that it would be a bit before we'd actually get the 2, but the thing is, Metalworks, the time it takes to actually walk into 2 takes so long, especially if you go through alley. That's like the longest walk in any of the maps in the map pool. By the time you actually get there, they had maybe like 5 seconds to dry before Divine was able to hero people and fuck people. It was like such a small advantage, just unable to capitalize. Because they committed so far, the dominoes just fell, so it causes this situation where the tables have turned. I mean, full ad for the side of Thrembology. They've taken 2 for free, getting ready to push into last. You have the engineer up from the side of Scream. It's a bit of a passive gun, though. They might just end up ignoring it depending on the direction they go, as looking to actually go over towards the far right side from the attacker's perspective and bombing through, finding their way onto Loaf, get a bit of damage is fine, but they're actually milking. The Uber will finally come out. Beware the sticky. Speedy's on top of the point, getting some cap time, trying to
Wonder's
lead them
getting
over.
cap time, but Apathy is gonna fall first. Speedy so hurt as well. Sleepy gonna fall. Speedy gonna fall. There's a lot of deaths, but the cap is gonna go in favor of Thrembology in the end. That cap time was a little too much, and the gun was still alive in the end. I feel like that gun and spawn. If you can avoid it, you should just avoid it and just cap.
I think he probably intended to move it up if it ever got to level 3, but it just never really got to that point. He just wanted to make sure
they've just been having their gun there.
Yeah, it's like it can be.
It was a level 3.
At a certain point, you got to realize that, like, if you don't have enough time to build like your gun and move it to the right spot, you just got to cough it up and say, all right, I'm going heavy. Like, I just don't got. I don't.
Or just build like a level 2 or something.
Yeah. Level 2 is good enough. It's only missing 16 HP, but another mid.
Yeah, another mid. Apathy gonna bomb Sax in the high ground. Actually, Sax is gonna get watched by 4 players. Is TM06 really quickly taking his high ground, but JT's just running at Pablo. He's dodging so many shots, but they're committing so many resources for him, and they're unable to get Pablo, so Pablo's staying alive. And
might get scattered
Wonder,
down.
He's gonna fall, they're so hurt, but that just left the Verdant out to dry, and now a Verdant might fall. They gotta be careful, but they're actually gonna get all out in time, just leaving the scout to cap, and it's gonna be a 3v3 on second. We'll see what they can do, but both teams with Uber might settle into a stalemate.
I think the side of Thrembology, as long as they hold out, they can get some respawners over to this point and kind of punish TM06 a long ways. But I think they've realized that their opportunity is gone. Out of alley they go. Mine under path. Got some spam coming your way. But overall will not really amount to anything. It was actually Apathy over inside the house that was more damage out of anyone there. So overall, just evened out. It's fine with just at least taking mid and avoiding all the still the sack attempts almost from the side of TB to try to eliminate Pablo out of the equation. But they're in alley now, trying to get some spam onto a Verdant to get him shoved away. Be mindful of the soldier bombs that could come from either direction. Loaf be the first one to pull the trigger. Find a way on a Divine. Divine in the corner does eat a rocket, but is fine. Living to tell another day. With the
Apathy Sax fight happening. There's a ton of aggression in the lobby. They already have 3 players in there. Fortunately, Apathy did not feed, so they're gonna do that. But look how aggressive they are on these refights. Sax is gonna try to bomb, but just gonna get mulched backwards, and he's still gonna try to rebomb by some safe, but JT's gonna be the one who's gonna fall. They're gonna lose Sax as well, so that is a 2-man, and we'll have to see what TM06 want to do off of that. And the 2-man a second can be quite risky depending on Speedy. He's going in, and they had no idea that's a nuke.
No, not only was that perfect timing from Speedy to just like guesstimate when they were going in based off of seeing them through lower, but no one was looking up. No one was prepared for it at all. So Speedy definitely read them, and there was no answers. So full Uber available from the side of Thrembology. You just have to be careful about back caps or something. This might actually go. Actually, it's not. Be able to stop Polly. The cap will not go in TM06's way. Apathy dying as well, but trying to convert this into at least some sort of trades. But they're only able to find a Verdant. Loaf still behind, trying to at least draw some people back and buy some extra time. But
I was gonna say, if Loaf lives there, that's actually really. If Loaf lives there, that's really annoying because they have to leave someone back. But Loaf dying, unfortunately, means that that's not the case. Pablo is on second. He actually left spawn, but he's running backwards in lobby. His team, they actually they fed so quickly. They got a ton of forwards to fight second with, or at least attempt to sack or waste some time.
Yep. So Thrembology, they're on the move over towards alley with their ad. It's pretty huge, and the side of TM06 know it. They're actually pretty passive, not in a position to actually go for the force. It seems like they're going for the just back up, go to last strategy, but if Thrembology put the pedal to the metal, might be able to really get something going before Scream is able to put up his gun. He's building now, but it's not really going to get in a good spot, I don't think, if they're ready to go. I mean, they got the cap going. They're trying to find a correct door to push through, and might be able to find Loaf depending. Jumps away just in time. They're milking Uber bit, but will finally pull the trigger on the way to Polly and the gun in tandem. But it's overall
the level 2.
Speedy is the one that died. Didn't get the flash, and overall 1 dead from the side of Thrembology as soon as the post hits. Sleepy full charge forward, gets a lot of damage on the Wonder, but will be safe. Get healed up by the medic, but the scout in the corner. JT.
He got nuked out of the server.
Sax
might fall as well.
MG. Oh, Scream on top of things, able to win that.
Yeah, Scream definitely on top of that. Sax actually looked with set. Well, not too soon, as Sax actually Apathy can end up cleaning up Sax. So that is 3 men, and that is a late soldier death. So there's gonna be a lot of them. But Speedy coming for the high bomb again. Pablo this time looking up in the air nose, and Pablo doing a good job taking no damage, so successfully avoiding the. I guess he couldn't drop. He didn't have Uber, but avoiding any disasters happening that time.
Still on the try to make Pablo explode train, but didn't really find a whole lot of success there. Actually going to be able to block one of the soldier spawns, so it's going to be a bit harder to, have full control here for the side of Thrembology, but you still got to do something. You have the Uber ready to go. They're choosing door that has the traps, but they are just popping through immediately. Averted, bombing through, trying to find the way out of the door, but actually Scream caught in no man's land, a little bit behind, but it's actually Loaf's behind as well. Overall 2v2, but Polly and Loaf dying on either side of the map. The chase is still on. They're on to Sleepy. Pablo's just alone. Everyone on the combo has died. Apathy stuck behind, able to kill Averted. That's something, but Wonder is going to be able to get this medic. Pablo really weak and gets the head. Oh,
almost.
Almost a little bit of an accident there, but does indeed clean up that medic as Apathy still trying to make some moves. Saxon has got to be a little bit careful. His health is a little bit lower, both going back for packs around. But overall, Wonder
is hiding behind them.
Free soldier pick. Wants to go for the scout instead. Gets popped into the air. Will get cleaned up. Speedy. I think he tried to give a little bit of support, but timing wasn't quite theirs. Overall, I think both teams exploding on either half of the map. But overall, I think Thrembology are probably happy with how things turned out. They're able to secure mid. They have Wonder as a late death as TM06 can't push off of. And they technically have a really small Urad to use if they so desire. But they do have Wonder Spy, so we'll see how that comes into the equation.
So far, I think the Spy's gotten at least 1 kill every time. So the Spies have been...
And Scream's on last, too. Scream's building a gun. What?
Maybe he's moving that gear up.
That's a little too prepared.
Yeah, maybe he's building a telly as well. I feel like there might be some shenanigans in place here.
It's difficult because
maybe they think they have bigger
your ad is small for the side of TM06, so as long as you can live through the Thrembology Uber, you just Uber back onto the point and block. But not with an engineer at last. It's going to be a bit hard, but Wonder could put a thorn in the equation here if they're not actually using the Uber for the side of Thrembology. Everyone was too passive from TM06, so will not be
I think they thought their ad was like I thought they hit like more than 30.
Yeah, they probably miscounted just a tad, but
yeah.
I guess spy timing is fine as long as it happens pretty soon. You're not wondering why they're not sacking per se. Only it's going to happen a little bit later from now. Just has to find a good decloak spot, but it's hard to find a decloak spot on Metalworks. They lose apathy, so it's going to buy some extra room, and maybe that'll give them the sight to make sure that Wonder can find a way to get in. As Sax is on the move, find some room. Nothing really happening quite yet, though.
And nothing really quite happening. There was a death, so maybe that's why they're looking on Sec, but I think people might start getting paranoid at this point. But regardless, Wonder is still on Spy. He is patiently waiting for this opportunity to go have something happen. Sack's going to make some space in the meantime.
Speedy?
Yeah, Wonder almost gets rocket jumped on, but Speedy and Sack's going to fall. Wonder's still on last. Maybe you're going to play the long con and just sit on last, wait for them to push out.
But he has to kill Scream though. And Loaf is resupping. Loaf is weak and not getting an arrow and is resupping. I don't know if he saw it or not. He definitely can't go for anything. There's too many people on last.
Yeah, there's too many
he's
shenanigans.
Just stuck. The Uber was used from the side of Divine, though. Did get forced throughout that while we were looking at the spy on last. So that's going to be huge from the side of TM06 to actually work their way out. But Batman spot, Saxophone going in for the frag. The timing's not quite there, yo. Unable to really find it and might get chased away.
Wonder's doing the long rollout.
Speedy on Sniper, looking at the point, though. He's holding a shot, but he is spotted. Loaf on the case, Speedy bomb. Will probably give up his life for it, but Pablo trying to help. Maybe collect this scout. Saxophone
they might get two.
They might just lose their flank. They're trying to share with the pack, but only one can take it. Meanwhile, Wonder's spy is still a thing that's happening. I mean, he hasn't really been able to find anything. But
this is the longest of cons. The longest of cons.
There's so many variables happening right now to keep track of all these different off classes and plays, and he's just gonna try to face stab Pablo. Gets a revolver.
He got so many shots off.
Apathy's dying though. Overall, Trey just on either side of the map. Uber's still available from the side of Pablo if they feel like they need to use it, but down so many people. I mean, you're gonna be hard pressed to try to really go for something and end up on their half of the map when they're gonna have respawners. So it's probably just gonna leave things to be evened out as after all that action, it's just going to lead to a mid-stalemate.
All right, hear me out. No one expects Wonder to come up Spy again.
Yeah, probably not.
Unfortunately, he didn't. That's,
You actually, I don't think you see much defense Metalworks Spy, but that's also because it's so
there's
easy.
There's a very good reason for that.
Well, yeah, one, I mean, it's risky, 2 decloak spots, but also 3, it's so easy to spot all the players that are defending Metalworks second.
Yeah.
Like,
everyone should be hopefully within sight other than maybe like one lobby guy.
Yeah, and even then that lobby guy is like barely exists. They go get ammo and they're only gone for a handful of seconds.
At least you have like the shutter decloak, and that if they're like if they're outside the shutter, you can decloak behind the shutter and not get spotted, but it's still like a little sketchy. And you can even hear the shutter open. But
Loaf lands on one of the scouts' heads. But
that's
it's fine.
Yeah, that's all part of the plan, as we have settled into even overtime. So blue team need 3 rounds to come up top. Our team only need 1. So, but Loaf, they're gonna get Saxon. Actually, massive rocket from Loaf, and he's gonna get the force.
Overall 1-for-1 trade, but the Uber will be expended from the side of the red team. As TM06, they're backing up. They actually get the scout kill on JT, was a bit too aggressive, and Underpass thought that maybe they would push immediately and was gonna go for a play, but the timing was dead wrong there. As everyone else from the side of Thrembology are backing up. Uber still available from the side of PSN, and Loaf is actually respawning like pretty soon. He won't be there for the Uber, but maybe in the post if he can roll out fast enough, as they're getting ready to go. They want to go now before the gun's set up, and they will succeed in killing down this built-up level 1 gun as they're trying to chase down Speedy. Overall going towards the point. Mind the stick is that they brought both the soldiers over the flash. Isn't able to quite hit the scout again, but after getting some damage, overall will trade, but enough cap time is there. They brought both the soldiers over to the point so early that once they were either dead or just shoot away, that going back to the cap time once again really sealed the deal. I don't think Verded was able to re-sticky it at all. Was kind of still locked in his spawn the entire time. So 2 to 3. PSN, they're making some moves. They're coming back into this game, and they still got some room to go though. You know, Thrembology, 1 more point and the match is there, so we'll see how things unfold in what could potentially be the final mid-fight.
This definitely could potentially be the final mid-fight. Mid-fight's so far, we'll have to see if they can Operation Kill Pablo still in effect, or if they change their strategy. And it looks like I see 2 soldiers in the air, and they're both landing, so they made some space, but they both kind of instantly died, and Speedy died as well, which means this mid are now ending 12. And Divine was alone, and he's just gonna get 2 rocketed. There was no scouts with him, no nothing. There's gonna be a double scout, probably fighting 2 scouts that he's gonna feed, but in the end, that is gonna be a successful mid-fight for TM06. Just 2 scouts to deal with, you know, up to no good, up to some shenanigans, and they're just running to spawn.
I think Speedy and Saxophone landed in the same location, which, I mean, Apathy and Loaf did as well.
The
difference was Apathy and Loaf exploded on the enemy team over in the valley side, trying to kill the demo or the medic or whatever, trying to, you know, soften them up. Where, you know, Speedy and Saxophone, they were just trying to go for fake. They didn't really want to commit on anything and just ended up ruining their health completely, and were some of the first people that died. on their team. So maybe a bit of miscommunication there, but they're trying to make some moves now. Loaf will find himself a bit too aggressive as the double soldier bomb will be able to collect that frag, but that means they're not available to actually pop this Uber out of the side of Pablo. They've given up both their soldiers though.
Ooh,
and
JT with that
Scream.
coup shot off the Scream.
It's gonna end up working for now. The Uber does indeed need to get used. Chasing into the shutter, trying to work their way in, but
They have two players behind, they have to deal with it.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you're not sandwiched here. Speedy, able to get some rockets, will kill Pablo, trying to find the way into Polly. Polly's gotta hit his shots. Mind the melee lives with 4 HP. The sole survivor is Loaf is rolling out from what happened to him earlier in the side of houses. He's trying to escape to the pack. He knows the scout's on the chase. Confidently, JT able to take him out on a 5K right now. Getting on top of the point is Uber still available from the side of Divine. Wasn't expended throughout all of it, and Scream is on Spy. Could be a thorn in their side. Gotta be mindful of it, but we'll see if he's able to make some plays.
We'll see if he's able to make some plays. They're going Valley, so he's gonna get a good eye on where they're going. But this is definitely I would consider this kind of an off time for Spy. Like, it's definitely a time you can go Spy, but it's not like you usually don't see this. Like we said, Metalworks second defense Spy, not too common. So he's gonna go for the decloak, but gonna find pretty much immediately. JT going for the pack and just backing up. JT even out with the taunt, finding Scream, finding the taunt, and that's gonna be a free second. And they're heading straight to last with this Uber at 40% left for Pablo to build this, but down a player, this is gonna be rough. There's no gun, no secondary, no nothing.
They're just Ubering in, he has to swap off. They're actually able to get to the spawn and, buy some room, but no kills other than the kill they got on the Spy over on the alley side. They get the demo man to dead. Bomb comes from the side of Speedy, able to take down Loaf, getting some damage onto some of the players over the spawn, but once again, you just draw the people over, gets the cap time, and afterwards the floodgates have opened. It's really hard for Doman to re-sticky this point, and I think that was the moral of the story for a lot of these successful last holds. So overall, Thrembology able to seal the deal 4-2 and make sure that they're still on top of things. It wasn't as clean as maybe they'd hoped it to be, but it's still technically better than the last time they played these guys. So progress made, and TM06, they're going to have to find their victories elsewhere.
TM06 indeed gonna have to find their victories elsewhere, but they're on a bit of a late season surge, winning over GPG and winning over Thrembology again. I think it's solidifying their spot as the 5th place team this season.
They still gotta,
whatever seed they're at. I don't remember.
It depends on how 3D3M does, but they're still sitting around like the comfortable 5th, 6th. You don't have to worry about relegation. While TM06, they got to make sure they don't get passed up by anglerfish.
Yeah.
Because someone's got to go back to the qualifiers to make room for the IM winners, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to be put in that situation if you don't have to. So
indeed. But looking at the logs here, I see that there's someone got messed up out of the logs. But Scream getting a lot of kills, Apathy getting a lot of damage.
I think Speedy is missing. He should be the soldier there, but Wonder has the stat line.
Well, Speedy's playing Spy for a lot of game. That's why he's invisible. Wait, no, did Speedy play Spy? No, my joke didn't work.
There were many different Spy players this
game.
There
was there's a lot of espionage and shenanigans happening, which I do appreciate. I feel like you don't see an exorbitant amount of Spy considering the game flow, but sometimes you gotta just throw some espionage into the mix.
Overall, I think the stats kind of tell a decent story of what happened. You can tell by the medic desk that it was definitely an operation try to kill Pablo as much as possible. And after that happens, just clean up as much as you can. So it definitely makes sense to see his death count high, and then Thrembology. It's their scouts that kind of lead the charge with the frags by a very large margin and staying alive. Sell out your soldiers, get some of the important backline players, and just kind of let them bleed into you. And the stats, a lot of them aren't too far apart, but that's also because it was kind of a close game. TM06, no slouches. They're able to find some success, put some rounds on the boards, but just not quite enough to seal the deal.
Yeah, I feel like that's been the story for them. It's just a lot of rounds, not as many victories, which is a very sad state to be in. But
at least they're consistent at that. No matter.
Yeah, at least they're consistent.
I think they've put rounds up on every team except Froyo. Even all the other playoff teams, they don't get rolls. They find a way to at least be somewhat competitive. And if there's anything that you can say to yourself about your team, it's that. But I think wins are probably definitely more valued. Obviously,
that happens when you're a mid team. Even if you're worse at the map, you still get a couple rounds just because you win mid.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they're just the mid goats. But closest time prediction. Shout out to Dolphin having the script apparently. No, nice job.
Not too far off.
Yeah,
I think most of the time people kind of expect, a little bit past infinite overtime.
Yeah.
There's probably some sort of stalemate going on. It's usually difficult, unless you expect a hyper roll, it's difficult to hard predict how long those are going to last, but.
All right, well, Also, have any interviews? Any further thoughts, Jared? Wrap it up.
Let's see. Uh, I think we're casting Froyo versus 3D3M right on Thursday, Dolphin. Yep, so that's on the table. You have that to look forward to. You can get a look at Froyo versus 3D3M. It could be a decent game, so we'll see what ends up happening. And overall, remember, uh, last season there was like a 1 month gap in between the final week of the season and then playoffs. This time there's no gap at all. You have this week, you have next week, and then literally after your Thursday match or the Thursday cast that I'm assuming we'll be having next week, that weekend is going to be playoffs. It's April 1st and 2nd. So I'm saying it early, I'm saying it now. Do not miss it because you will likely, as history has had it, you'd be like, okay, regular season's over. They're going to have like a couple weeks and then we'll get into playoffs. Nope, instant. So beware of that and make sure it's known.
I'm
But,
already writing my April Fool's jokes for the
Right.
cast.
And we'll get one of the or two of those in there. But it's time to move over to shoutouts.
Only
anyway.
one or two.
I mean, you don't want to overdo it, but any final
I
shoutouts
will
for
run
you
that joke into the ground.
before we close things out, Space?
Any shoutouts? Shout out to both teams playing good match, etc. Shout out to everyone watching. Shout out to Skis, and that's it.
Yep, everyone watching, of course, the teams were playing. Slam House for the tunes. I think Slam House streams like every Tuesday or something, making new like songs and stuff that we use for like the pre-show and post-show of the cast. That's always nice and good. But I think that's gonna be it for us tonight. Like I said, I think Thursday it's the 403-3M. There's gonna be more casts next week, as always. There's Highlander on the Mondays. They're actually in playoffs mode for Highlander already. So if you want to watch some of the upper bracket or lower bracket games, you can start to check that out and see the eliminations happen live. But for tonight, that's going to be it for us. I've been Jarrett casting with Space Ghost with Dolphin on production. Thank you and good night.
Good night.